Just fucking do it. Subscribe now.
It was a great week.
Thank you. It's supposed to be a great week.
You have a beautiful home, you have a beautiful estate. And
Thank you.
I experienced, and I'm sure everyone else did, what's possible.
Yeah.
What's possible. You're given, again, I'm going to talk for myself, the vehicle to create the dreams that we've all had for 5, 10, 20 years of our lives. So for that, thank you.
Well, you're welcome. And it is possible. And the fact that this came to fruition in 17 months, which is fast, I understand that. But we've had other guys. The Australian David Pham, the Vietnamese guy who owns Seton Castle, which is a neighbor of mine. He bought it in 8-9 months. He didn't buy it in 8-9 months because he had the money to buy it in 8-9 months. He figured it out after the fact. See, we've been taught to, before we buy something, we have to figure out how we're going to pay for it. If we can't pay cash up front, we're going to make payments, right?
Yes.
Well, that's not how I bought this place. And that's not how Dave bought Seton Castle, which I was just there maybe 8-9 days ago for a board meeting. But I mean, you got to think, it's such a cheap cliche, thinking outside the box. We've all heard that, right? But actually doing it is a whole different thing. I mean, when Jeff Bezos, his first acquisition, when he had 2 employees, was knee pads, because they were stuffing boxes, and one of the employees said, it's really rough on our knees being on cement ground. So why don't our first acquisition was $18 or $28 for knee pad? Well, that was 25 years ago, 23 years ago. Now look at Amazon. And I'm not agreeing or disagreeing, but I tend to agree with his work ethic, or agree with his hard ass, trying to not unionize his employees. But you've seen these guys. All these guys are tough as nails. Maurice, do you want to say something, young man? Or you stand by the mic?
I want the next question.
Yes, sir.
Your hardcore program,
yes.
Can you tell us what that looked like and what the
sure.
qualifications
sure.
are to enter?
We try to limit it to 2 blacks only. Well, fuck you. You asked me, though. We try in line with yes, in line with racism in Scotland. You don't have to have done a deal. The track record, for some of you need another shooter drop. Some of you need, it's like the guy that went to 12 seminars, the guy that took 13 years, and then he saw other Germans that had done it. That was the shoe that he needed to drop. And they were speaking Nazi back and forth, and all of a sudden the heavens opened up. Okay? It's an MBA in 9 days. We go through 32 case studies like you would do at a regular B school. We have 4 or 5 studies, the AOL takeover, Nabisco takeover, and a few others. And then each one of you have to bring 2 deals. 2 deals that either you're working on now or cratered, didn't happen, or 2 deals that you want to do. So everybody's got to bring 2 deals. And then I have 15 or 20 deals that I bring from the Wharton School or Harvard or wherever I've taught. And we go through those studies. But instead of taking a half a semester or half a quarter to do the motherfuckers, we do them in a day. And so in the evening, early evening, late evening, we go over the results. And we split up into 4, 5, or 6 groups, depending on how many are the hardcore. And I go around to each one of the groups on the estate, and I tell you where you're online or where you're offline, and I commit to telling you, so you don't go through all the permutation of all the mistakes like you do in graduate school, and you're in the right line. and this is where you should be going, and the finance should be this or it should be that. And then late in the afternoon, early evening, we meet and we go through the cases. And then the rest of the group, 20, 25 people, chew you alive. Maurice, I mean, do you just look stupid or, I mean, okay. And so they beat you up, very un-PC, but it's a learning experience. And then we come to dinner, and then to the extent, instead of the homework you have now, the homework is, okay, you're working on your future cases, or because you've been so humiliated by the group because it was so fucked up answer, you go and resurrect your answer. And it's a great learning experience. And so we go through 30, 32 cases. And there's no guarantee, but 80, 90% of the guys and gals that leave there go out and do, instead of the 750 to 125 deals, they do 8, 10, 12, 15, $20 million deals. There's no guarantee that, but it's because they are opening up it's like, I don't know much about cameras, but when you open up the thing, you see more. You were going to say something.
So do you suggest all of us to potentially take it hardcore?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have room for this coming to hardcore. We have room for a few because there's still a few spaces. But it's a great experience. It's a great experience. And we've had people, Marcus Bauer came to 7 seminars and 2 hardcores. Bavarian Bob went to 12 seminars and 2 hardcore. Peter, who you saw, came to 2 seminars and 1 hardcore. I don't have to sell it. I mean, Roberto came to 1 and 1. But it's the more committed guys and gals. It's more committed. The Viking bitch came to, I believe, 2 regular and 1 hardcore. But not everybody. Andres never came to a hardcore. It's not an absolute, but it is. And even though both of our kids went to graduate schools at big schools and got master's degrees at big schools, we teach in 8, 9 days more than they learned in 2 years. And it's just a given. I mean, the kids, they're not held accountable in graduate school. You know, to cover 32 cases in 2 years is wasteful. When we cover 32 cases in 8 days, 9 days, something's out of sync. And we cover them well. And I come up with answers that you won't, as I have in the past. I come up with answers that you don't get out of graduate school. You just don't. Because not for every graduate school course, but 99% of them I have more experience, but I've actually done the deals. It's one thing teaching. It's like reading about sex and having sex. Even for you guys that have trouble getting your willy wet, there's no experience. There's no, you can't compare. Yeah. I mean, you can't compare. And so that's a long-winded Maurice answer, but it's a great experience. And we've got a few more openings for December. Normally, I told you it's over Christmas, but this Christmas, Sally convinced me that we should take the family someplace, since we haven't had Christmas with them for 7, 8 years. And so we're going someplace in the United States. I believe we're going to Florida. I believe we're going to the Keys. And we rented a couple of big mansions in the Keys and some of my buddies that are still alive, vets. I'm not saying they can't afford it, but maybe they can't afford it. So we're going to take some of my vet buddies from 50 years ago. Yeah. Well, that's one less black person, but yeah.
Morris, you get away from the 50% upside.
Mr. Peña, is it safe to say, well,
Nothing's safe to say, but go ahead.
In the limited time I've been around you, I've only seen you defer to Sally.
That's the only person I defer to. You're very astute, okay? Yeah. Well, Sally, we're a kindred spirit. She's a workaholic. She's super bright. And it's just coincidentally, she's a financial wizard. Okay. That's just coincident. Okay. And that's how I first met her. But she's a cordon bleu chef. She's a psychologist. And she sailed across the Atlantic. So she's kind of a multifaceted gal. And so far, she still worships the ground I walk on. Now, that may change over the next 20, 25 years. But the first 25 years, it's worked out well. It's worked out well. And we're both poor, came from poor. And it's not that important. But it really is. If you could both come from the same shit background. Now, some of you we've had gals and guys that married billionaires because they started associating with different people. That, God bless you. But that's not the same as making the billion. Either by yourself or together. But we had 2 or 3 guys. We had a guy years ago who came to me and he said he was engaged to one of the Packards, Hewlett Packard. Ambassador Packard, former ambassador to Russia. And I said, are you fucking crazy? Of course you should marry her. Well, and he was young and he still wanted to sow his oats and get his willy wet. But so anyway, he decided to marry her. So I was part of the wedding up in Silicon Valley at the Packard estate. Secret Service and Mr. Packard, Ambassador Packard was just such a real decent guy. And as you're going through the reception, you're shaking hands. And, one of the girls that was part of the wedding grabbed Ambassador Packard by the balls and said, I always wanted to know what $1 billion felt like. And the Secret Service was knocking people down. I mean, it was a pandemonium. And the Ambassador Packard was a good shit. I mean, he took it pretty well. Secret Service and Ambassador Packard's wife didn't take it well. She wanted the fucking reception to be over with. But it wasn't. We kept on. But some of you will, just because you're up in your game, you'll be exposed to, in a good way, not because you're exposing your privates, to a lot of rich people. And if the chemistry is right, fine, marry them. But it's like the phone call I got on New Year's Eve by Jack McLaughlin to buy these assets in Britain. The only calls you're going to get on New Year's Eve is somebody to bail them out of jail for drunk driving or something. I've had a few of those calls too, but I mean, when you're rubbing shoulders, and it sounds awful, with super wealthy people, super shit happens. And currently, and I'm looking at the Aussie, because not the only one Aussie, the other Aussie, but I mean, I'm not saying everybody you know is a drunken bum, but probably everybody you know is a drunken bum. Not everybody, but the odds are if I was going to pick a race or a stereotype, it's easy, drunken bums over the Barbie. I mean, and plus you promote that on top of it all. But that's great. And I love Australia. I mean, nobody, I can drink from the morning till the night. I mean, it doesn't matter, whether it's Bloody Marys or gin and tonics in the morning or straight up whiskey. And so I should have been, gone there. I should have been one of the 200 years ago when they sent all the criminals down there. My family would have probably been preeminent down there. You are who you hang around with. You are who you rub shoulders with. And poorness rubs off, guys. I mean, I'm telling you. Poorness rubs off. You don't see it. You don't feel it. You don't sense it. But I mean, poorness rubs off. And it's a shitty thing when you disassociate yourself from your family. I mean, it's shit. It's not easy. Doesn't mean you can't see them again in 5, 10, 20 years when you're multi-billionaires and you can start helping them if that's what you choose. I'm not promoting helping your family, but you can help them a lot more when you got, 80 million or 180 million in the bank. I mean, it just, no matter what your ethnicity, and the kids, you, me vicariously through you, have done a lot of good. And plus, on top of that, Sally and I have built missions and all this shit. When I say shit, I mean stuff. I've already told you that. You know, in the Philippines, Sri Lanka, India, and other places. And it doesn't really make me feel good anymore, but I do feel an obligation now. I didn't used to feel an obligation, but I feel an obligation to continue to fund the things that Sally and I initiated. Because I see now we've had second generation, I can see the good. You know, I remember the first scholarship we gave at Lincoln High School many years ago, and my dad, it was Emmanuel Peña Student Athletic Scholarship. And he's a Vietnamese kid who's now a big-time hedge fund guy. And I remember that's the first scholarship we gave there. And now we've given many more scholarships for, the last 2 decades. And I've seen what they've gone on and done with the money. And the giving back. I don't like that terminology, giving back, but anyway, that's the terminology that's most vogue. But, so we have done a lot of good. And so it's like the music thing that Sally and I just donated to my grammar school. So I get off on the fact that Marilyn Monroe was only 19 years away from me. I would have been on her like a cheap fucking suit, even in kindergarten, I'm sure. She would not be the first female I was on in kindergarten. And I hope that in my dreams and my fantasies, she was good looking with big tits, even in the kindergarten. I know she wasn't, but it makes it easier for me. We enjoyed doing that. We enjoyed it. And other than some YouTube publicity, we're not looking for recognition. Only recently that we start taking tax write-offs for all the money we give. We didn't do that. We didn't take write-offs. But as Bunker Hunt told me, if you're worried about taxes, Danny, you're not making enough fucking money.